Okay, so I'm going to talk about why I talked about that. And why part of the reasons of why maybe it means so much to me, I guess. And I do have a vlog that I take off and take on all the time because it's too disturbing a lot of times for me to keep it up. And I did it around Christmas time, and it has to do with how there are so many people who I've lost that I remember at Christmas time because, that's a time when you think of people who you're close to and who you love and blah, da, 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 da. So, basically, I guess, I mean, growing up as Jewish, you know, there, there were certain sort of bigotries and prejudices that were allowed, and then other ones that were discouraged or whatever, and some that were really fostered. And this depended upon the community that I was in too, because there were tons of people who were like incredibly anti all of that judgment junk, and so much so that yeah, it was very liberal and loving and non-judgmental and supportive. Even of like, it didn't matter what kind of, person the Jew was, or if they weren't Jewish. Whereas when it was in certain communities, yeah, you had to be Jewish or whatever. I won't talk about that. So, I was raised around a lot of that, and it's, I thought that I had dropped it so much so far earlier on that I never noticed how, in many ways, like, there were things that stuck with me that have negatively affected me, but I'd never seen them, and I didn't know that they were still, like, troubling me in certain ways. And they've gone away now, but I didn't notice some of them because it was socially acceptable to be, that way or whatever. So, hateful, I'm saying. And to like justify it with all kinds of excuses. So, not acceptable. But that's the truth. So, um, particularly with my friends. Now, part of this is because I grew up, with a very creative and eclectic group of family and friends. I was doing a lot of theater, did a lot of dance, music all the time. And so, as far as, people of different races and people of different sexual orientations and combinations of every different sort of family possibility, that never got to me as far as a reason to be even cautious or, you know, aware of someone in a negative way. That it was a non-issue. It was, people are people, and it has nothing to do, and unless you're looking for a date, you just didn't care what someone did in their bedroom, because it's nobody's business. It's just stupid. Anyways, I didn't really know about so many of these negative effects until, I mean, definitely not in Chicago, definitely not in St. Louis, but when I went to Indiana, and I lived there. Now, I really do actually remember the first time that I heard on the news when they were talking about the gay cancer, okay? And I remember how it moved through, and it became ARC and all of this, and HIV and AIDS didn't come till later, HIV, and they just called everything AIDS, and then all this and that. Well, if you look up the Ryan White case, that was happening when I lived there, and it had a really big effect on me. I was in college, and I happened to be in. If you remember the Farmers concerts that John Mellencamp used to have, where he had these huge headliners and it was shown on like country music television, I went to one of those that was supposed to raise money for the farmers, and that night, Elton John happened to be there, and a bunch of amazing headliners. But pardon me, Jesse Jackson actually had given a prayer regarding Ryan because he was so ill, and Elton was there actually, to visit him as he often had, and he took care of his mother after Ryan had passed. Their friendship and their relationship maintained, and from what I in the press, it was talked about how integral to the grieving process that he was helping to her. When I moved out of Indiana, pardon me, right before I went to massage school, I got trained to work in AIDS hospice, and the training, it was state of the art at the time, but so much has changed. You know, it's all a different ballpark now. But when I was trained, it really was, helping someone feel comfortable as they were passing, and helping the families find ways to support each other, especially because of all the stigma stuff. And see, this is where it came up for me. All that stigma kept so many people away from their families, um, and that these situations were often more what we had to deal with in helping, the patient really, even more so than the other part of it, which, being later on that I had massage, I could use that as a tool to help with pain, whatever. So it's very disturbing to discuss. The reason it's disturbing is because, okay, so once I got my massage training and then I left. I went to Alaska. And I decided that instead of working straight away, I just wanted to do some volunteering. So I got involved with a support group out there that was a social assistance for, it was a non-for-profit that helped people with education as well as different types of support. And what I did was I became the massage therapist for them. I would go in to the office, and people would sign up, and I would work on so many such and such clients a week. And I split it between patients and the care workers in the office. And when I was in massage school, there was talk and training of how to help for someone with a cancer patient, but there was no information on how to help with someone who's HIV positive or about to exit. So I had to learn a lot about how to combine the two. And there is nothing that I could say in any of my training that could have ever prepared me to, when I'm accustomed to massaging people, who are very healthy and just want to relax, or maybe had had some simple injury. Contrasting that with someone who's 79 pounds, a grown man, and he's basically come home to live in his house so he can die there. And so many of the situations that I saw were people who had either refused testing or refused treatment, and having not gotten that earlier in their life made their situation more difficult, because had they gotten medication earlier or even just had the diagnosis, They could have done things differently, possibly, but because of the stigma, because of the shame, and because of what they would have to face with their families and with different communities and their religious groups and things like that, it prevented them. They felt pressure in that way that made things hard in ways that it really shouldn't have been. And that was a lot of what I saw the effects of going to memorials. I'm not, I've said sort of that I'd gotten sick of going to memorials. And what I mean by that is I would rather have gone to a funeral, because what it meant when someone was having a memorial was that someone's family wasn't going to be there or wouldn't allow their family member to have their friends at their funeral. Any combination of something that did not behoove and honor who that individual was. And it was so sad to see that when they've finally gone, that even their parents are still embarrassed and still, living under this shame and stigma. Their child has just died and they care about what it looks like on the outside. Even before I was a mother, I was horrified by that. Now, as a mother, I I don't have enough words to say, what I think about that and how disgraceful that is, to the parents, not the child. Um, I can't even do that. So, that's why I'm like, you absolutely better not be hateful. There's no room for that. Like Miss Vicky said, I won't play part to it. I just won't have anything to do with that. And so that's why. Not that I need to explain to anybody why. It should be very obvious. But, people use their channels to do all kinds of things. Some people are really creative. Some people, can do amazing editing and they'll do parodies and jokes and I don't know. But then there's vloggers and we're a different sort of animal. um, you know, so I hope everybody is doing well and I wish you great blessings of peace.